Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Yasharoff. I'm the Director of Content at Montgomery Community Media and host of MoCo's Most Famous, where we highlight people from Montgomery County. We have a very special guest today, emphasis on very and special, Lisa Ann Walter, who was born in Silver Spring, graduated from Blair High School and Catholic University. Over the last 25 plus years, she's appeared in movies like Parent Trap, Bruce Almighty, shows like Grey's Anatomy, Curb Your Enthusiasm, way too many to mention. In 2021, the Emmy award-winning Abbott Elementary debuted. The show has been a smash hit. Lisa plays the tough but lovable teacher, Melissa Schemmenti, in the show. A few weeks ago, Lisa was named the honorary marshal and host of the Cherry Blossom Festival in DC. Lisa, welcome, and thank you very much for doing this. How are you?
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction, and you are quite welcome. It's my honor. I'm very proud to be from Montgomery County, and I brag about it quite often in interviews, in fact.
Well, that is good to know. We're going to talk about Montgomery County, but I wanted to talk about the first thing at hand here, because in a matter of days, you're going to be hosting and marshaling the Cherry Blossom Festival. Probably not something you thought about when you were at Blair High School a couple of years ago.
Thank you for the couple of years. Yes, just a few short years ago when I was in high school. You know what? I never thought about being a grand marshal for a parade, but I certainly thought about being, I don't even know a famous actress, but a working actress. And I thought I'd stay working in DC my whole life. I thought I'd work at Arena Stage and, do playwrights. And I thought I'd just have a career as a working actress. So I don't know if they get offered grand marshal of parade positions, but I always loved the parade and I always loved the cherry blossom season. So I was just really, really honored when they asked me to come do it. And I immediately said yes. And then I looked at my schedule and everybody yelled at me and I said, I don't care, I'm going anyway.
That's great. Now, have you worked on is it the parade or the pageant?
Yes, it's elbow, wrist, touch your pearls, blow a kiss. That's what they tell me.
Awesome.
I've never been a pageant queen, but that's what you're supposed to do.
So between now and the parade, if we see you walking down the street and you're doing that, we'll know that that's what you're working on, right?
Yes, or I'm going to go to the coronation of King Charles.
There you go. So it's on Saturday at 10 a.m. People want to come and see you and the many other people and events and things. So tell us a little bit about the festival, what they've told you and your role.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody's told me a dang thing. Wing it. I'm going to show up. I'm assuming I'm going to sit on the backside of a convertible. I don't know. I might be walking, in which case I have to change my entire outfit because I can't make it in the heels, man. I'm going to be crippled. I'm not that kind of a young girl anymore to march down a parade in super high heels. But I think that's what I do. And I hope I get to meet a lot of people. I've over the years have been gotten close to some of the groups out of DC. I mean, I was always political. So I'm, know some people that are in town in politics, but also people like the head of the NFL Players Association, which did a combination group with the SAG-AFTRA, and it's called the Actors and Artists Alliance. And I'm going to hang out with them one of the nights. And I'm just looking forward to seeing all the people. I'm really happy to be home.
Sounds fun. Now, so you talked about your goal of being a working actress, and obviously you achieved that many times over for the last 25 plus years and all the shows I mentioned and many, many more.
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, this little thing called Abbott Elementary happened. And did you have any inkling? I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but did you have any inkling that it was going to be this special, this big?
Yeah, you know what I did? I know it probably sounds, I don't know. I don't want it to sound ungrateful. No, I know. It's not that. It's that as an actor, you always have to have optimism, which is difficult for me because I am in life a pessimistic Sicilian. It's in my blood, in my DNA. I learned it at my mother's breast. It's just, we always think, what's the bad thing that's going to happen? And in acting, you can't be that way. You have to get up in the morning convinced that you're going to be a success, or this is the audition that's going to work and you're going to get this job. I read the script of Abbott. They sent me various scripts throughout pilot season. And they sent me this one, and I laughed and I cried when I read it. And I said, first of all, this is a fantastic script, and I'm glad that they actually greenlit something that's good, because that's not always the case.
Right.
A lot of times you get sent stuff and you're like, how did this get picked up? It's not that great. But this one, fantastic. You could clearly see the voice of the project, which is Quinta Brunson, my boss, who is sensational, best boss I've ever had. And she's my daughter's age. She's just a miracle, just a nonstop energy, really, really talented, and very clear about doing this show about an underfunded urban school and making it look real. And I think that's what we landed on. But the other thing I said to myself was, there's nobody better to play. I know all the women that are sort of in my category that they would go out to, and this is my job. This is mine. I am the only one I know that is true, that is actually Sicilian. My mother was a teacher, taught in DC, taught in Montgomery County, was my substitute teacher sometimes at Tacoma Park Middle School. I mean, I know this. I know it from the inside out. And I went and got it. I think I knew from the table read that we had really great people in this project. And the week that we shot the pilot, I told Quinta, I said, we're going to be huge. I said, if you only get teachers, we're a monster hit, but we're going to get more than teachers, because you root for everybody. There's nothing that this is what I told her. These people could do anything, and you root for them because they're doing it for the kids. My character can sell whatever fell off the back of a truck, as we say, and you root for them to succeed. When they do bad, you root for them. When they do good, you cheer for them. You root for them personally. You know, they're teachers. They're trying to do the right thing. They don't always do the right thing. They're not always perfect. Quinta wrote them, and I believe we play them as fully fleshed out humans with faults and issues and problems. And my character has got real rage problems. And in fact, I always catch myself, looking at what they want me to do. And I'll say to Quinta, are you sure they're okay with this? Like, they want me socking the head off of a cardboard cutout. Yeah. No, they like when you're violent. So, all right. But I think that was seeing the other actors and who they got to play the other characters and how we had chemistry with each other just solidified it for me. I thought there was not a bum in the lot.
Yeah.
Everybody in this ensemble cast is perfect, and we all do a great job and play off each other well. So, yeah. As
a viewer and as a fan of the show, I totally agree with you that it feels real. Everybody is perfect. It's got a little bit of an old school feel, maybe Room 222. I don't know about Welcome Back, Kotter, but a little bit of old school feel. Would you agree?
Yeah, Quinta was very, she was very influenced by some of the classic sitcoms. And classic for her could be from the 90s, or right. Could be Everybody Loves Raymond. She probably never watched Room 222, but I bet you she's watched some episodes of Welcome Back, Kotter. She loves researching. She's a fan of television. So there was a lot of stuff that went into how she wanted it to feel. I think what people respond to when they rewatch the show and they come to it, at the end of the day, when they just want to watch something nice and funny, make them laugh. She picked shows like Mary Tyler Moore and things where there were a work family. In fact, I call her our generation's Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, wow.
Because I dare anybody not to fall in love with her. She is just entirely likable and lovable. And this work family that she put together are all variations of weirdos, but it makes people feel good. I think the difference between this show and maybe some of the old school network shows, as we've all gotten very educated in our TV watching, from watching streamers and shows that have a lot of stuff that you would never find on network. You don't have to, people were going edgier and edgier and edgier. If you were out there in the world trying to sell television, it just got harder and harder because it was like, well, what's the hook? Which meant, what crazy disease does the lead character have? Or, who do they kill? Oh, it's a comedy, but he kills people for a living. By the way, great show, Barry. But that's a comedy on an SVOD, on a subscription television, right? And I think the difference with network is that, and it's always been this way, when I was creating my television shows that I starred in, the one thing that for certain is people need to invite you into their house. when they watch you weekly, they want to have dinner with you and their family. And that's what we hear about Abbott. I watch with my grandmother. I watch with my kids. We sit down and watch together as a family. And that's what Quinta was going for. Not so much the side where you wrap up the whole issue of the week in a neat bow at the end, because that's clunky. That's a little corny. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't go ham-fisted on the messaging either. You don't see in the last minute or in the tag, well, what I learned on this week's very special Abbott.
Yeah.
Slide a message in, but it's a surprise. There'll be the episode about the training that they were doing online that Barbara just couldn't get. And then at the end, you come to find out that was a information gathering for the school to prison pipeline. And you go, there's the message.
Right.
But it's not hammered onto you the whole episode. It's just, the episode's just funny.
You mentioned Barbara Cheryl Lee Ralph.
Yeah.
She is something special. And I know that you have a special relationship with her. What about Cheryl Lee Ralph is special?
Oh, golly, what isn't special? It's so funny because I was talking to her about her this morning in another interview, and I was doing Cheryl, because whenever I talk about Cheryl, I find myself doing Cheryl. And girl, and that's what I get. She doesn't text you. She'll send you a voice message, and if it's something serious, she'll always start out with girl, and then I know it's gonna go somewhere crazy. And she left me a beautiful message today. I told her I was going to save it because it involved her having a post-travel fever dream where she didn't know for sure if she saw me on Good Morning America, but she thought that she had seen me and that I did a wonderful job. But in case you didn't do it, it was a wonderful dream. You were wonderful in my dream. And I mean, she is effusive with every single thing she says to you. She doesn't talk, she preaches, and she inspires you. You're going to get inspired, whether you like it or not. She will inspire you and lift you up. And it's truly a beautiful thing. I've been very lucky in my life with girlfriends, and some that I've kept since growing up in Silver Spring. But when you meet someone that you're going to keep in your life forever, mm-hmm. and they're going to be a best friend, whether we do the show or we're done doing the show, she'll be in my life. And I'm incredibly blessed to it, but it's a big gift that Quinta gave to me, besides the incredible job with all the awards and the money that goes with it. Besides all that, that's nice. Meeting a bestie is just the thing that matters most to me.
That's amazing. By the way, incredible impression. I know you're a comedian, a stand-up comedian, and a producer and a lot of things, but that was an excellent impression. I felt like Cheryl Lee Ralph was in the room.
Right in the room.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
You feel better about yourself?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you inspired me. I mean, Lisa Ann Walter inspired me, but then Cheryl Lee Ralph, played by Lisa Ann Walter, also inspired me. So
I'm sometimes channel her. Yeah.
Yes. You talked a little bit about this. So you play Melissa Schemmenti, Miss Schemmenti, tough but lovable. I guess that's the way I described it. And you talked about some of the possible influences, but how much of your mom, how much of other people go into that role? You sound like you're born to play it, that you wanted that role, you went and got it. But what? Yeah,
these are my people. So my people are not from Philly or Maryland. They are New Yorkers. Now, you can't do a New York accent and say you're from Philly. People have done that, and Philly gets mad.
Yes.
Philly does not appreciate that.
Yes.
South Philly is a very specific entity. The people are specific. They are, they'll say something to you, and it'll sound very much like a criticism. It is a compliment. They are just very sort of plain talking, truth telling people. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of, BS going around. And between that attitude and the accent, which I got from, doing my Maryland O's, and then, with Philly, you just put it right in front of your mouth. It's a lot of this, and Philadelphia doesn't have a lot of, there's no consonants. You just, you go down short. You mush the words together a little bit. So that's my secret is I mush my mouth together. And before I do a scene, I'll be backstage and I'll say, or offset, and I'll say, oh, what water, oh, what water, oh, what water. Because water is their
Water. Yeah.
We don't go that
right.
That's deep. They go in hard with the, this thing. So that's my secret to getting the accent. But in terms of like the characters, that's my people at home. And my mom, as I said, was a teacher. So her kind of tough love with her students and truth telling about what it is they didn't have and, kind of doom and gloom that I've told all the writers. I'm like, just anything that she thinks can go wrong, just write that she believes it's going to all fall apart. And and food, trying to feed people.
Gotta have the food. Cheesesteaks. The accent thing reminds me of Kate Winslet. What was the show on HBO?
Mayor of Easttown.
Yes. So it reminds me and how she nailed that accent and how you've nailed that accent and how important it is to be real.
Pittsburgh is different from Philly.
Right.
It's really funny. You'll watch, and she did do a good job. She did a real good job. There are a lot of British actors and actresses that when they do American all sounds like this. Get it? On the one hand, the reason that Southerners have the accents that they do, if it's an elongated vowel sound, is it originated from elongated vowel sounds in the UK. So, but we're all different. We as Americans know that Louisiana is different from Arkansas, is different from Texas, is different from Georgia. We don't all sound alike. Virginia is very different from Maryland, and we're right next door.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So she got real specific on the regional accent. And if I was doing a Pittsburgh accent, there are some similarities. But, Philly says yous. They say yins.
Yins. That's right.
Yeah. And I have a very good friend who was producing a movie with me she was Paula from Pittsburgh, and she's, where yins going? And I'm like, she had a voice like that. Yins going out? I'm like, what's a yins?
Yeah. By the way, I'm adding linguists to your next intro that I do.
Well, when I was a Catholic, I went to Catholic University to the Harkey drama department, and we had great dialect classes. And if I wasn't going to act, I was either going to sell makeup, which I also did at Lord & Taylor in White Flint, which I just learned no longer is there. Broke my heart. That was the first Dave & Buster's I ever went to.
Oh, wow. I had
never even heard of a Dave & Buster's before that.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But I was either going to sell makeup or I was going to be a dialect coach. I'm fascinated by how accents develop.
Well, the acting thing has worked out, so I'm glad that you did that. Can we do a little Huey Lewis and go back in time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go to Blair High School. First of all, what is it about Blair and Montgomery County? So Blair, Goldie Hawn, help me. Carl Bernstein, who's not a funny man, but a great journalist. Ben Stein, who?
Connie Chung.
Connie Chung, right. Also, well, I guess actually she is funny, but her job was not to be funny. But also in Montgomery County, Dave Chappelle, Tommy Davidson, Louis Black, Julia Louis-Dreyfus went to Holton Arms.
I know that.
What's so funny?
I think that it is a combination of a few things. Growing up in the vicinity of the nation's capital, and if you had parents like Diedrich Bader's from he's from Virginia, but also really informed, had a father that was like, I think a spook. I think he was with the CIA. And Julia's, parents she had a great education. She had smart folks. Louis, the same thing. People are well educated here. And that's when people talk to me about schools, which happens in almost every single interview, I say I had the best public school education there is, Montgomery County, Maryland, top 10 school system. When I lived in Jersey, they had a great public school system. Union County was a great public school system. Mm-hmm. My son went there, my oldest. We moved to California, not as much, not so good. And that's why people yank their kids out of the public schools and send them to private schools, because it's too big of a system. They don't demand the level of certification and proficiency in their teachers. I had amazing teachers. Everybody I knew, it's not that everybody went and, became something huge out of Blair or out of, the neighborhood schools, but you certainly had the opportunity to. You had all of these great advanced classes. You had AP, everything. And at the same time at Blair in those years, I don't know if, I know they changed the location And then they told me I was brokenhearted that they had weeds growing in the middle of our beautiful auditorium, which, that was the stage I was on. We did Fiddler on the Roof my junior year. And I looked at this audience that I had been making laugh the entire performance, and they were crying at my scene at the end. And I went, this is what I want to do. I want to make people feel, not just laugh, but I want to make them feel in everything I do. And that auditorium is not getting used. And they were going to tear it down. And a friend of mine that I went to Blair with and junior high with was very involved in local politics and said, write a letter. So I did. And at that time they didn't tear it down, but I don't know if they did moving forward. But there were people that you mentioned that I have spoken to about going to school in the area. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I've introduced at a couple of charity shows, and we talk about home and what a great place it was to grow up and how much we loved going to school here and being involved, being active. I was marching in protest since I was 5. I had a music teacher that was a full-on hippie that used to play the harpsichord and have us sing, all we are saying is give peace a chance. I mean, we were marching, we were active. And I think that carries you into being next level in terms of what you can imagine for yourself and what you want to do in the world. When Chappelle first came to New York, I was already established in the showcase comedy clubs there. And everybody was busy trying to be Richard Pryor. And he was as close as they came to being Pryor. And I was like, dude, where are you from? He was 18. And he was like, I'm from DC. And I went, yeah, okay, where in DC? And then he told me, I went, from the neighborhood. And we stayed friends. I've seen him since. But who's the other one? I had never met Goldie Hawn. I had always heard that she was a Blair. She was a Blazer. And that she waited tables at Mrs. K's Toll House. And that she babysat my next door neighbors when they were little. But I had never met her in all my years in the business. And I met a lot of people. And she did movies for Nancy Myers, who I stayed friendly with, but I just never met her. So we were at a party for George Slaughter, who originated Laugh-In.
Okay.
And I got to do the best of Laugh-In. They did a big reunion show a few years ago, and it meant a lot to me because my father let me stay up and watch Laugh-In. It was the show that and the Smothers Brothers.
Yes.
Shows that I stayed up, and it taught me about being funny, that it could be a living. And in particular, Laugh-In because there were funny women on that show. Yeah. And I told that to George. And I had met Lily Tomlin, and she pulled me up on stage to be with the women of Laugh-In. And it just was so incredibly moving to me. And I told George, this show taught me that I could make a living as a funny woman. And he said, no, in fact, it helps if you're a woman. And I said, I named all the people, and I said, and Goldie, and he goes, she's right there. And I said, you're kidding. And I said, this is my chance. I got to go meet her. So I went over and I said, hi, I'm Lisa Ann Walter. I'm on a show called Abbott Elementary. I'm a huge fan. And she was nodding and being polite, but really didn't care. And I said, I've done movies for Nancy Myers, and I know you guys are friends. She was like, yeah. And I went to Blair, and she went, oh, you're Blair. She's the Blazer. She grabbed everybody at the table, and you have never seen somebody so animated.
Wow.
She just jumped out of her seat and gave me a hug. And she was she could not have been happier to talk about home and what a great time she had going to Blair. And I said, you know what? There you go. Means something.
Wow.
We all had a great time. It was racially diverse.
Yeah.
And I tell people this, when they ask me about being on the set of Abbott and does it feel different? And do I learn about being in a different type of school? And I said, well, we were not an all Black school, but we were incredibly evenly divided between Black, white, Latinx, and we had Asian people coming over from Cambodia and Vietnam. And it was just an incredible experience. And I don't know a lot of people that had a high school situation like I did.
Wow. I remember Goldie Hawn being the Sakatumi girl dancing, doing that when I was a little kid, and my parents let me watch that too. So I know exactly what you're talking about, although I did not become a funny person, so sadly, but I appreciate funny people.
There you go. Well,
okay,
we can't all be funny. You got to have some people to laugh too.
Exactly. I'll be the designated laugher in this scenario. How important it is to you that Abbott Elementary, I know Quinta Brunson was on SNL, and she had a message at the end of the show, pay your teachers. I can't remember exactly what she said. How important that aspect of doing the show is that to you?
It's one of the biggest bonuses of doing Abbott is that we get to regularly give respect and love to the teaching profession, which is an historically underfunded and undervalued job because it was mostly women. Historically, it was a mostly female profession. So they kind of gotten away with acting like it wasn't as important as some of the other big time jobs. And of course it is. And in a time like we're going through right now, where teachers, what they're teaching is second guessed, and what their reading materials are giving out is second guessed, and they are facing school boards that are increasingly divisive and problematic. The least we can do is to pay them what they deserve. And to get to say that out loud, especially there are most of us on the show, I think 5 out of 7 had parents that were teachers and educators. So we all take it very seriously, and we are honored that teachers look at us like you represent us well. There's nothing better to hear from our audience than that.
That is a great last word. That is the fabulous Lisa Ann Walter, one of the stars of the very best shows on TV, Abbott Elementary. If you don't watch the show, that's on you.
Yeah. What do you do with your life?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Lisa. This was a real treat. Have a great time at the Cherry Blossom Parade, and really appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure. Thanks, Hon. I was happy to be here.
Hon, thank you very much. Hon. My name is Joe Yasharoff. This is MoCo's Most Famous. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.